Hey there, welcome to the Light Your Own Path podcast. I'm your host, Empress Shoshana, and I'm a Reiki practitioner and psychic medium. On this podcast, I'll be sharing Reiki meditation, inspirational messages, my spiritual journey, and other witchy and woo stuff. So light your incense, grab your favorite crystal, and let's get on with the show. Hey there, and welcome. I am so excited that you are listening to my melodious voice. I'm Empress Shoshana, and in this episode, as in many first episodes of new podcasts, I'm going to share a little bit about myself. As you heard in the intro, I am a Reiki practitioner and I am a psychic medium. And this podcast is my attempt to share my journey from now to wherever spirit leads me, and also to share the spiritual tips, tools, and resources that I learn along the way with you, so you can light your own path. So let's start in the beginning. I have been on a spiritual journey since 2008, but I didn't know it. What kicked me off was when I had a business called Twentity, helping 20-somethings graduate into the real world. I wrote blogs, and I wrote on the things we know now as adults, but we didn't know starting out, like the lights, you having to turn that on yourself when you get an apartment. Like, I didn't know that it didn't automatically come with the apartment. And when I shared this with my mom, she was like, "What, you didn't know?" Like, so when did you think to tell me? It's just the things that we take for granted as adults. We don't know when we're starting out. So based off of the blog, I self-published a book, and writing had always been an important part of my life, and I've always wanted to write a book by the time I was 30. And I did it. So I wrote Life After College, What Your Parents and Professors Never Taught You. And you'd think I'd be happy, but I wasn't. I felt absolutely nothing. Like, that's when I knew something was wrong, like very wrong. I published a book, the thing that most people always talk about doing. I'd actually done it. And I wasn't happy, I wasn't sad, it was just like, whatever. I felt almost felt numb. So I didn't like this feeling at all. So I set out to figure out what the heck. And that's when I began reading self-help books, watching webinars, going to conferences. I even joined an organization that ended up not being quite right for me. But I was searching on how to fix me. I wasn't feeling. I wasn't feeling. And I went to get my coaching certification, and that was an amazing experience because I knew nothing about coaching. I like to dive. Okay. The type of person that I am is that I will hear something, learn a little bit about something, and then I become obsessed. And then I'm like, okay, I have to know everything about it right now. There's no waiting. There's no hesitation. It's just all in. So I'd heard about coaching. I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. I might want to do that. So I went and got my coaching certification, which was an amazing experience. I met amazing people. There are book recommendations. I learned so much about myself in the process, and how I think, how I listen, and just so much more. And after getting my certification, I went onto the world ready to get clients for now. I was going to have a coaching business. So I networked and met people in a plethora of industries: housekeepers, fashion stylists, travel planners, masseuses, tarot readers, reflexologists, like a whole gamut of people. And I'd always been curious about tarot, but not enough to do anything about it. But as I was meeting more people and, starting to step out and try new things, I was like, you know what? I really want to know more about this new age stuff. And so I met up with a colleague, and she did palmistry and she did tarot. And originally I was interested in palmistry because that just seemed really cool to look at someone's hands and be able to tell something about them. So we met up for lunch, and she was telling me about palmistry and everything. I'm like, okay, great. Like, where did you learn? How long did it take you to be able to understand? And she told me it took her 2 years to learn. And I was like, that's too long. What else you got? And so she brought up tarot, and I was like, okay, tell me more. And she told me about the cards and everything about it. And I was hooked. And after our meeting, I went to Barnes and Noble and I bought my first tarot deck. It was Tarot Royale by Ciro Machete. He's Italian, and I hope I said his name right. But it's the first deck that I ever owned, and I actually still have it. And I have many different variations of that deck because I think he's an amazing tarot designer. So I started doing tarot readings off and on. I would study for a little bit, and then I get bored and leave, and then come back and leave, and then I go and I step out and do readings for people and get some good results. And I was just playing with it, just petting it, doing it here and there, and then in between I was also looking into research because in my family we grew up Episcopalian. So tarot readings and all that was not should we say, that was not encouraged, we'll say. But I did my research to be like, okay, am I actually worshiping or talking to the devil when I'm using these cards? And what I discovered was that it is not. Tarot actually was discovered or whatever, created as a card playing game in the 1400s by rich people in Europe. And it had nothing to do, it started out nothing to do with the divination. Over the years, it started to become that, but it was never about that. But because, I'm pretty sure you've seen in Hollywood, they flip over the death card like, oh my God, you're going to die. And that's not what it means. Death card means something coming to an eventual end so that something new could be born. At least that's how I interpret that card. And it's not. So if you were ever to get a tarot reading and the tarot person flipped over and you got the death card, doesn't mean you're going to die. So don't be upset about that. But also throughout learning, I went to Biddy Tarot as one does, and I got my certification, my tarot certification in tarot. And you don't have to get certified in tarot, but I'm the type of person that I want to learn step by step. Show me a step-by-step process of how you do it, and then I can modify it from there. But I need a foundation, I need rules, I need education, I need to know everything on the bottom, and then I can figure out what I'm going to do from there. So with Biddy Tarot certification, there was a step-by-step on how to read and how to learn, and we did practice readings, and it was just it was great. And I continued to learn. And then in February 2019, I was in my favorite crystal shop, the Funky Hippie in Stamford, Connecticut. I was picking up a crystal for my mom and looking for myself. And a guy came in to the room that I was in while I was looking and debating, should I get this crystal heart or that crystal heart? Spoiler alert, I got both. And the man turned to me and he's like, are you a medium? And I looked around the room. It was just me and him in there. And I'm like, me? No. He's like, are you sure? I was like, I do tarot. And he said he felt like I was a medium. And at the time, I had no idea what a medium was, but I know enough to know that I wasn't that. And in case you don't know what a medium is a person who speaks to spirits on the other side, aka dead people. And this man just went on to tell me that there was something that was calling out to be expressed inside of me, and that eventually I wouldn't need the cards anymore. He was a medium, and he told me, he said, souls can't hide from him. I was like, ooh, okay. But he was convinced that I was meant to be a medium and that I wasn't going to have to use the cards anymore. And I was like, this man is crazy. These cards are so pretty. Why would I ever turn them away? But here it is, 2 years later, got my certification, but honestly, I can't really read tarot cards anymore. Like, I see them, but they don't speak to me like they used to. But I'm totally into oracle cards, and I wasn't like that before. Before oracle cards, I couldn't read those. So it's interesting because tarot just feels rude and disrespectful and restrictive to me, but I'm keeping the decks because I have spent good money on some of these decks, and they're just pretty. So from 2019 until now, I have gotten into so many spiritual areas. I've gotten into crystals, reiki, astrology, psychic development, mediumship development, magic. It's a lot, and I love it. I'm just like so into everything. It's like this 2020 was the year that I totally went all in on my spirituality and just deep diving and studying everything that I just didn't have time to do when we weren't on lockdown. And I plan to share all that I've dabbled in, what I've learned, questions I still have, because I'm a beginner and I'm only scratching the surface. I don't think I'll ever know everything there is to know, but I will share what I do know. And I also invite you to share what you know with me, because we're all here, we're all learning, we all have different opinions, different thoughts, and I don't want to ever be the person to be so closed off to be like, I'm not going to consider anyone else's interpretation or their opinion or their frame of reference, because hey, maybe you'll say something I'm like, I never saw it that way before, and maybe I'll say something new and you'll be like, I never saw it that before. And there's nothing wrong with hearing other opinions, and just because you hear it doesn't mean that you have to accept it. It's just like, okay, that's what you think. I never thought about it that way. Still doesn't rock my boat, but hey, you do you. So this is just a little bit about me. And as we continue on, I will divulge more and more with you. And I can't wait to share. And you are always welcome to share your thoughts and your journey with me. I think that's enough for an intro podcast episode. Yeah, I think that feels right. So next time, I'm going to share a little bit about my mediumship journey and how I got started with it and where I currently am. So thank you guys so much for listening to the inaugural episode, and I can't wait to see what happens next. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Light Your Own Path podcast. If you want to keep up with me, feel free to stalk me on Instagram at Light Your Own Path, or sign up to my newsletter at lightyourownpath.com. Until next time, find the things that make you feel happy, whole, and joyful, and do more of that.